Hello and welcome to Humans of Reliability. Today I am joined by Krishna. I'm just going to toss it over to you to introduce yourself and what you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me in your show. As you know, my name is Krishna. I was born in India. I grew up in India. So I completed my undergrad in engineering specialization in India as well. I worked in India for 3 years before I moved to the United States. I started my career as a systems engineer. My undergrad background is it's more related to electrical engineering, but I was actually got interested into computer science and then applied for a role in one of the information technology companies in India. That's how I landed into IT, and I started my career as a systems engineer. When I started, I used to work as a systems engineer for few telecom companies in Europe. I was working remotely in India for them, mostly working, taking care of like all the data center infrastructure for telecom companies in Europe. Then eventually, I had this plan to come to US for pursuing my master's in computer science. I did my GRE, TOEFL, and all those exams, and I even applied for some universities in the US, and I got admitted in few good universities like University of Florida. Then at the same time, I got my H-1B visa, to which allows me to work in the US. So my company said, "Do you want to go to US?" I said, "Yeah." I was anyway planning to go, so I'll take this opportunity. That's how I landed in the United States. So when I came here, I was working with this company called Nordstrom. It's a fashion retailer, like a high-end retailer. I was working as a website infrastructure engineer between 2010 and 2013. That's when I first encountered this term as site reliability engineering. I mean, Google had pioneered this, and then there were a couple of books, I think mostly articles at the time, and then later a book also came. So that's how I kind of like introduced to the site reliability engineering field. So later, while I was doing that, since I wanted to attend college in the US, I was like using that opportunity to. There's a University of Seattle here, and then I was going into the college to pursue some courses related to programming and like different Linux and a lot of other courses. And eventually, I got admitted into the master's degree in program in University of Washington in Seattle. And uh, uh, then I got an opportunity to work at Amazon as a systems engineer. Then later I got an opportunity to work at Microsoft. So I've been like constantly studying in the evenings and then doing my work in the mornings, right? Like so I did masters for 3 or 4 years. In the evenings, right? It's an evening program. And so I got a fantastic opportunity to work on large scale projects like Teams and Xbox and Amazon. I was learning and growing, kind of like experimenting with the technologies and then different fields. Last couple of years, I worked at TikTok. So, I mean, yesterday rejoined Microsoft back. So I joined a new job yesterday.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, that's a little bit of, I mean, I have two kids, so 4-year-old and a daughter and then 7-year son. So we basically like currently live in Seattle area. So that's a little bit of background about me.
Oh, that's nice. Seattle and the Pacific Northwest are close to my heart. That's where I'm from originally. Not Seattle,
Oh,
but
wow.
on the Canadian side near
Oh,
Vancouver.
nice. Nice.
I'm out in Toronto right now, but
Okay.
yeah, that's home for me. And I also have a son close in age. He's almost 7.
Oh, wow. Okay. Then, yeah, now, you know how it goes with like 7-year-olds, then you can relate to it.
Exactly. Well, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's a great introduction. And it actually leads into one of the questions I had for you, because
Mhm.
obviously I was checking out your LinkedIn before we started
Yep.
chatting, and I saw you've got a pretty sweet resume. You've landed some SRE jobs, like you said, Microsoft, Amazon, TikTok, back to Microsoft. It is a really tough job market out there. And so
Yep.
I'm wondering if you have any advice for people about how to set themselves apart in the application process and, get noticed by these companies.
Having the mindset of continuous learning and then being curious, and then also applying, right? I mean, I notice a lot of people, they don't actually apply thinking that like whether they would get it or not, right? The first step is obviously to apply and then also reach out to the hiring managers, right? A lot of times the hiring managers are really happy to jump on a call with you and have an informational session, right? And if you show that sort of curiosity, if you learn continuously, read books on the field, and then there are a lot of ton of free resources as well, right? If you just like keep staying up to date with latest technologies and latest trends in site reliability engineering and being curious, and then don't be afraid to apply for any job that you want, right? I mean, without applying, you wouldn't even get it. So just like go and apply if anything that interests you. And even though if you are not actually confident that you are 100% matched to the job, right? Because you can, I mean, one of the important things on the job is no one knows everything. Everyone has to learn. So having that mindset and then curiosity and then reaching out to people would definitely help. Making these connections, not just when you are applying for the job itself, but even before, right? I mean, just in general, if you're curious to learn about people, and then if you are open to share whatever you know, and then having that kind of building those relationships would definitely help. So that's what I mean. That's what I do. So that actually works for me.
I think that's great advice. I love the idea of like not saying no to yourself. Like sometimes it's
Yep.
a no, but let somebody else deliver the no. Like if you just tell
Yep.
yourself no, you're not even giving them the chance. And just
Yep.
getting out there. I mean, that's how I found you to invite you on the show is because you're
Yep.
writing great content, you're involved in the community. And I think it was SRE Weekly. There's a lot of different things I subscribe to, and I
Nice.
saw something you had written in one of those.
Yeah, I think D zone.
And
I
that
believe
was
it was D
exactly,
zone. Yeah.
yeah, a D zone
Yeah.
piece. And
Yeah.
that's exactly the
Yeah.
type of person I want to talk to. On the flip side of that question, I'm wondering what advice you would give to a company that wants to hire top SRE talent. Like when you're looking for a new role, is there anything in particular you look for out of an employer in that process?
One thing is like the companies can help to which gives importance for learnings for their employees, right? Meaning like if I want to learn something, if there are resources available in the company, and if there are opportunities to pursue different role within the company, like after 2 or 3 years, right? Having that flexibility to move around, work on different products and different technologies. That's what I would look, and then obviously company culture as well, right? I would obviously see the ratings of like how other employees are saying on different websites, right? Like how the current employees are they happy with the company? How do they perceive their experience with the company, right? So I would at least like when I'm applying, like that's what I would see. And one of the most important things for me too is like obviously to work on products with like which have a huge impact. I mean, that's the first thing, right? Like whatever work that I am doing, it should be meaningful to me. If it's impacting millions of users or billions of users, then that's obviously it attracts me, right? Like towards such a company. And or maybe like a company might be a startup. It might still be building new products for customers, but like having that good culture of like taking care of their employees, as well as like giving them the growth opportunities, learning opportunities, and to move around different parts of the company. Just like being open to those would be important for me.
Yeah, definitely. Those are great things to look out for. I like the idea also of getting to know like the type of problem that you would be working on and making sure that
Yep.
that's something that's actually interesting to you.
Yes.
Because I think
Yep.
sometimes it's obviously like in tech, especially people want to ask about the benefits and the perks and all of that
Yep.
good stuff. But day to day, you're doing the work. So if you don't find it interesting and engaging, then that's going to be a problem for you.
Yeah, I mean, you said it correctly. I mean, initially when I was in the starting of my career, I used to look at the perks and like other things, like free food. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter like in the long term, right? I mean, so at some point, like those become like minor. Those are nice to have, but eventually, as you said, the kind of problems that you will be solving on the job, as well as the impact that you'd be having, that's much more important. So as I mature as an engineer and as a person, that's what I'm realizing as well, right? I mean, the perks are okay. I mean, they're nice to have, but they're not the everything, right?
Yeah, totally. No amount of free snacks makes up for a
Yep.
shitty
Yeah,
culture.
exactly.
Awesome. Okay, so the next question I wanted to talk about, you've been an SRE for a while now, and I'm curious if you've seen any misconceptions or myths about SRE work that you want to like set the record straight or challenge.
Oh yeah, the SRE, the term SRE is loosely used. So everyone has their own perception of an SRE role based on the company and then the team that they are in. So in general, SREs it tend to be a broad field. It's not like some teams they look at it's an arrow. I mean they just do the operations, right? It's not actually true. The true SRE definition of SRE for me is obviously you have a service level agreement and then service level objective for your team and service, right? For your service. And all my work actually revolves around guarding that, right? I mean, there is so much to do to make sure that like you committed a 99.99 SLA to your customer. And based on that, you have to have an SLO. And to guard that, so much of work needs to be done. I mean, I have to write a lot of automation, build services, set up process, hire great people. And again, like the stack that I get to work is like all over the place, right? Meaning like from servers to applications, writing applications, networking, like operating systems and infrastructure. There is so much that SREs need to day-to-day work. So that the breadth, what I feel is sometimes like people don't understand the breadth that involved in SRE work. So it tends to be looked up as sometimes as just as an operation role, right? Maybe just like a rebranded operations role, but that's not true. Like a systems engineering, like over the period I have seen like the systems engineering, people used to work as systems engineers, but now SREs, like they come from different backgrounds. They could be working as like a software engineer or a systems engineer or a network engineer or a database engineer. So all these people coming together and then just like making sure that the SLA is upheld. That's the definition that I give SREs for.
Yeah, definitely. I remember like early on. So how I ended up in incident response in this field of work is I came through more like the crisis comms, outage comms side, and I had no idea just how much proactive work went into reliability. And I think like when I was at Shopify leading up to Black Friday, Cyber Monday is like always what I think of when I actually started to understand like how, like what capacity planning was and how much went into, you know, keeping systems up. Like they don't just run themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So another part of SRE work is quite frequently being on call for incidents and outages and things of that nature. And I'm wondering, like, what do you think teams should do to make on-call less of a burden for SREs? Because I know it can be really challenging, but there are things out there that can help.
There are so many things that we can do. I would start with the reasonable on-call rotation, right? I mean, if I have seen like some people, they're continuously on call every other week, right? Based on the team size. So when like maybe a new team starts, the on call would be rough. But as the team matures and grows, then having a reasonable on call, a sweet spot would be once in 8 weeks, right? Because it's not too short or too long as well. Because in the past, I have been in teams where the on call comes only once in 6 months. But by the time you go to on call next time, you would have forgot like everything. So maybe like once in 8 weeks to 12 weeks might be a sweet spot to begin with. And then you have like a primary backup model where you can like, even though you are on call, like you are on call, primary on call only once in 8 weeks. And the second thing is like, if you can afford to have a distributed team in a different geolocation where they're covering your 8 hours of sleep, that would just like ease the burden a lot, right? Especially you can get your 8 hours sleep and then rest of the day, I can cover the on-call with no problem. And having documentation. So everyone wants documentation, but like it's hard to spend time on writing good documentation. Any incident that has a TSG, troubleshooting guide associated with it, and you are woken up in the middle of the night, and if you don't know ins and outs of the system pretty well, then you can follow the documentation. Easy to follow documentation, right? And automation also. In certain cases, like I have seen like in the teams that I have part of, we have built automation where before you log in, the automation actually populates like all the information that you need on the incident itself, right? So you just wake up and then see like what's going on, correlation, and then taking automatic action and preventing the incident itself, right? Like that's the ultimate goal. But like, yeah, so there are certain things that not in your control. So having good documentation and the environment in the team that shares that you can call anytime any of your team member or anytime, having that understanding within the team members, that's a soft aspect of it, right? You're not stressed about like calling someone in the team. If you are ultimately like, if I get an incident, my goal is to mitigate the issue for customer. So whatever I do, like I can still disturb my team member, like whoever is, but I want to be able to solve the issue for the customer. So these are a few aspects that, based on my experience, make on-call rotation easier.
Yeah, I like that description of the culture, like everybody being focused on fixing it for the customer and not, pointing fingers or whose fault is it, or all of those things just lead to worse responses, longer responses. You have to be able to say when you are in over your head, or, I mean, I literally caused an incident like 3 days ago. I was the cause of a Friday 5 p.m. incident. How embarrassing. But my team had my back. We got it fixed.
Nice.
All good. So, these things happen.
Yep.
The last question I have for you is more of just a fun question. We talked about
Mhm.
this a little bit earlier that you live in beautiful Washington, one of my favorite places in the world.
Yep.
And I'm wondering if you have a favorite spot that you like to go, maybe with the kids, enjoy the scenery and the nature.
So I mean, my home at this point, it's my home. Just like stay because there are like, a lot of beautiful hikes around my place. I can just like go to a few trails and walk. So I live in this place called Sammamish, and so there are beautiful trails across, especially with the kids during pandemic, like last 4 years, right? Like I'm enjoying more near the place that where I live in. In the past, like before kids, I used to go for these hikes. There are beautiful hikes, as I mentioned, around Seattle area. So me and my wife used to go for those hikes, but now I'm just enjoying these walks outside the neighborhood, and just like there are kids that play around in my neighborhood. So I just like watch just like all the kids they ride the bikes and the scooters and like all that stuff, right? Like they play around and they just watch, sit down and watch.
Isn't that the best thing? Our neighborhood's like that too. Whenever, like,
Yep.
especially in the summer, you can go out and all the kids are out playing basketball and riding their bikes and just having fun out there. It's really
Yep.
nice.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Krishna. It's been really nice to chat with you. Is there anything else you would like to share while we're recording? Anything you want people to know? If you have a blog or anything like that, the floor is yours for a plug if you like.
Yeah, so what I started recently is like putting out my thoughts out, right? I mean, writing the D zone articles, for example. I started with that. So I thought like this is a great way to just like get everything out of my head and then just like put it out there, right? Just trying to write this. Maybe like people can just watch out for my articles. Maybe I'll just like starting to write more articles in different forums too.
Perfect.
Yes.
That
Yes.
is all for this conversation today. Again, thank you so much. And hopefully, we'll see everybody back on another episode of Humans and Reliability really soon.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. I mean, this is a fantastic, very cool idea, right? I mean, just you are just like bringing different people from the reliability aspect and then interviewing. I've been like watching other interviews as well that you have done in the past. I already learned a ton from them. So this is really useful. I mean, this is a really great one that you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Just a different type of content out there, you know?